and welcome to Restoring the Inner Person with Jane. In our today's episode, I'm going to be talking about one of the obstacles to restoring the inner person. In one of the episodes, I've looked at the first step, that is facing the truth with grace. But facing the truth is never that easy. Among the things that deter us, among the things that are obstacles, are our emotional state. So today, I want us to look at one of those emotional states, and it is a silent thief that robs us joy, it robs us confidence and intimacy with God. And this is shame. Many people confuse shame with fear. Fear has to do with what has not happened. You are fearing of what might happen next. But when we are talking about shame, it is what you tell yourself that you are not worth, that you are bad, that what you have done or what has happened to you is okay, but it is you who is bad. It is you who has made a mistake. It is you, people are looking at you and they find that you are not worth. That's what you are telling yourself. That is shame. And like I've said, it robs us confidence. It robs us our identity. Let's look at the Bible. In the Bible, in the Garden of Eden, we have Adam and Eve. And when Adam and Eve sinned and God came visiting in the evening, they hid themselves in shame because they were telling themselves that they are not worth to be in the presence of God. That is what shame does. It makes us feel not worth in the presence of God, and not just in the presence of God, but also in the presence of people. It could be your family members, your neighborhood, your peers, or your work colleagues. Things have happened in life and you feel ashamed. You are not worth. It is you who is bad. Maybe you are even a mistake. Maybe even you feel you are not supposed to be born. I want us to take a bit of time and differentiate between shame and fear. Shame and fear. So, shame affects your self-identity. You think you are not worth. You think you are bad. You think you are a mistake. You think you are unlovable. Those are the things you tell yourself. But when we talk about fear, it's about security. It's about whether you feel safe or not. It is about being assured of the future, that it will be okay or not okay. So you find that shame, when we are filled with shame, there are things that automatically happen into us. Most times we want to keep away from people so that they may not see us. We want to hide. We want to isolate ourselves. We may also work very hard and become perfectionists. Why? Because we want to prove to the world that we are not bad. We want to prove to the world that we are worth. We want to prove to the world we are lovable. But I'm not saying it is not good to work hard. It is good. But perfectionism, we need to give ourselves space to make mistakes. But a perfectionist does not give himself or herself space to be real, to make mistakes, to be a human being. Human beings make mistakes. But you see, with fear makes us to run away. Fear makes us to fight back. It's different from shame. Fear and shame, most of the time, they are bedfellows. They accompany each other. Peter denied Jesus. Why? Because he was confronted by people who told him that he was one of the followers of Jesus. But out of fear of what would happen to him, he denied Jesus. That is fear. So which is different from shame. So one of the things that make us ashamed of ourselves, like we have already pointed out, is making mistakes. Adam and Eve made a mistake and they felt ashamed. It is normal to make mistakes. It is normal to be influenced, like Adam was influenced by the snake. The snake had a conversation with Adam and Eve and they entertained doubt. So sometimes we make mistakes and it's because of doubt or because we've been influenced, not because we are bad. Adam and Eve had been made in a perfect way. They were made in the image of God, and yet they made mistakes. I hope you're already telling yourself that it's normal to make mistakes, but you do not live there. You forgive yourself, you correct that. So do not be held back by your past mistakes, by your past failures. Yes, when you do something and you fail, you miss to meet the standards. Adam and Eve never met the standards of God. They had the human nature. Peter also denied Jesus, though it was out of fear, but we find Peter in the book of Acts being a very courageous person when the Holy Spirit comes. So it is important to shake ourselves, to forgive ourselves and correct our mistakes and not allow shame, which is also a bedfellow of fear, to hold us back. We need to face the truth with grace. Face the truth with grace. John chapter 21 verse 17, this is what it says. Jesus restored Peter, reminding him of his calling. So, failure or making mistake is not final. God can still use you, like he did with Peter and many other people in the Bible. So let's look at another thing that makes us feel ashamed. Many people are ashamed of their family background. Yes, our family background and the way we were brought up. The things we are ashamed of, the things that happened in our families, the things we had or we did not have, the things we did. You know, everybody wants to be associated with a well-functioning family, a family that is doing well. So if we don't come from such a background, you realize some people are ashamed. I've also realized that people want to associate with an area or, a geographical area that is doing well. Maybe in your country, you have sections of your country that are associated with the rich, the people who are educated, people who are doing well. But we have other areas in our country, maybe they are a bit behind economically and in many other ways. Many people you find, they are ashamed if they come from places that maybe are not very developed or they are behind. Yes, our background, our family background, or even our geographical background, people are ashamed. But we are telling you here, me and you, let's agree that our family of origin, even our geographical location where we grew up, these are facts that we cannot change. They are part of our history. Another thing that makes people be ashamed of themselves is sin and moral failures. Sin. I want to give an example in the Bible. King David, after his sin with Bathsheba, in the book of 2 Samuel chapter 12, he was very ashamed of himself, very much. You realize King David, number one, he had killed Bathsheba's wife. And then he went ahead and married Bathsheba. But in all this, King David was very ashamed of himself. King David in Psalms chapter 51, you find him repenting his sin. He repented and poured his heart out to God. I hope Psalms 51 tells you that when we commit sin, it should not hold us back. In Psalms chapter 51 also, David is facing his mistakes. He's facing his truth. He's facing his sin. Facing the truth with confidence. Facing the truth with grace. He forgave himself. He asked God for forgiveness. So when we commit sin, we should not allow it to hold us back. The shame it causes should not hold us back. There is a way we can get out of that through repentance and through seeking for forgiveness from God and also forgiving ourselves. Let's go to another one. Rejection and abandonment. People rejecting you because maybe of your background, because of your own mistakes, because of your own sins, or because of the sins and mistakes of other people associated with you, maybe your parents or people close to you. People rejecting you. Or maybe because you are poor. All other things they feel you are not up to their standard. Rejection. I want to give an example of rejection in the Bible. In the book of John chapter 4 verse 6 to 18, we have the Samaritan woman at the well. This lady was avoiding people because of shame. She had been married not once, not twice, several times. She had several husbands. This was shaming. And therefore, when she meets Jesus at the well, she did not feel worth. That is what shame does. We commit sin, we make mistakes. We fail in our marriages. We fail in our businesses. We fail in many other things. And we feel we are not worth. People reject us. And they bring feelings of unworthiness. But you see, the encounter of this lady with Christ made her whole again. She was forgiven. Forgiveness through Christ is one of the great keys, and actually the greatest keys to dealing with the truth, dealing with your shame, facing reality as one of the first steps towards restoring the inner person. Do you want to be restored? Face the truth with grace. Deal with your shame. Seek forgiveness from people. Forgive yourself. And most importantly, like the Samaritan woman, seek forgiveness from God. Comparison and unrealistic standards is also another cause of shame. Yes, comparing ourselves. In society, you have maybe parents comparing one child and the other. We go to school, the teacher is comparing us with the others. We are, we are given positions in our class. That is comparison. And maybe if we do not meet the standards, the bar could be so high. And because of not meeting standards, whether it's with our parents, teachers in school, and even society in general, and even as a Christian, you could be in a church community and the bar is quite high. You've become a Christian, but you still fall short of the standards, and it can be a major cause of shame. Yes, husbands also compare their wives with others. Wives compare their husbands with others. We compare ourselves. Maybe we find economically we are down. We are comparing ourselves with others. And it brings shame to us. But we are talking about facing the truth. Facing the truth. And with grace. The grace comes when you accept where you are. You accept who you are. Shame distorts identity. So that identity is about accepting who you are, physically, mentally, and in all ways. Mostly, when people compare themselves physically with the others, they look at the physical things. We look at the shape of our bodies, various body parts, the color of our skin, the color of our hair, the color of our eyes, our height, and everything else. And maybe if we do not measure up to the standards of the society and the bar is too high, we may feel ashamed of ourselves. But we need to face who we are, accept who we are, accept our strengths, our gifts, our abilities, what we are able to do and what we are not able to do. I want to give us a reference in the Bible. We find two ladies who were married by the same person. We have Leah and we have Rachel. Rachel is the one who was loved by her husband. Leah, on the other hand, had issues. Why? Because physically she was not appealing. You can imagine what it did to Rachel. She never felt enough for her husband. She never felt loved enough. She never felt worth. She never felt worthy of being loved. And therefore you find Rachel struggling to give birth. There was competition. So shame can bring unhealthy competition. Why? Because society is pressing on us unrealistic standards. So Psalms 139 verse 14 says, I praise thee, for I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. We need to speak to ourselves and tell ourselves that we are enough. We are okay the way we are. The body parts, the way they are, the color, everything, and our abilities. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. Let's go to something else that brings us shame. Abuse and pain afflicted by others. Maybe you have gone through situations of abuse. We have different types of abuse: emotional abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse. Name them. I want to go to the Bible and give a specific type of abuse. In the book of 2 Samuel chapter 13, verse 19 to 20, you have a daughter of David who was called Tamar. She lived in desolation after being sexually abused. She bore shame for something that was not her fault. Maybe you have also been raped. You've experienced different forms of sexual abuse and you are living in shame. I want to encourage you. Isaiah chapter 61 verse 7 says this: For your shame ye shall have double, and for confusion they shall rejoice in their portion. So this is an encouraging message that God heals and restores what is broken. Whether you've been sexually abused or whichever form of abuse, there is restoration. And that's why here we are talking about restoring the inner person, restoring ourselves from shame. I pray that God restores you from shame. Shame as a result of pain. Shame as a result of abuse by people who are close to you. Because when it comes to things like sexual abuse, you find that victims fall in this problem with people who are very close to them, very close relatives, even parents. I've seen children who have been abused, even sexually, by their own parents. But God is promising us healing. And in our future episodes, we shall be looking at the different forms of healing, the different things that we can do to bring healing. So let's go to another thing that can bring shame into our lives. This has to do with our culture. Which culture are you coming from? So our cultures they have a lot of do's and don'ts. A lot of do's, a lot of standards. Let me give, for example, culturally, when people get married, society, even our culture expects us to have children. And when we don't get children as expected, this can bring a lot of shame. We can undergo pain, mistreatment, because culturally you are expected to give rise to children, whether you are male or female. So you also find the same in the Bible. There's this lady called Hannah in the book of 1 Samuel. Hannah was shamed for being barren. This has to do with culture and social stigma. But I want also to read in the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 2, verse 5. This is what it says. She that hath many children is waxed feeble. God gave her Samuel. This gives us hope that even in our barrenness, God can still bless us with children. This one gives us hope. The story of Hannah gives us hope. So you could be undergoing through other different cultural challenges. Like here in Africa, we have the issue of circumcision. We still have some cultures that circumcise both men and women. Others don't. So you could be culturally put aside. Why? Because you have not undergone the cultural rites of circumcision, whether you are male or female. There are some cultures that do not circumcise male. Others circumcise female. So whichever culture you come from, you can find yourself being put aside, being stigmatized, because either you have been circumcised or you have not been circumcised. These are just examples of the cultural things that we undergo through. And I want us to have one more thing that brings us shame: our own hidden struggles. Our own hidden struggles. What the Bible calls our thorn in the flesh. You could be undergoing your own hidden struggles, and they bring shame to you. In the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 12, verse 17, Paul talks of a thorn in the flesh. He had something that he was struggling with, a struggle that he could not remove. But in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9, it says this: "My grace is sufficient for thee. My strength is made perfect in weakness." God's grace covers all weaknesses. What is that hidden struggle you are dealing with? A lot of people today are dealing with sexual struggles. It could be masturbation or other sexual perversions. Those are thorns in the flesh. They are causing shame. But we are saying there is hope. There is hope for you. So always make sure you look out for us in our episodes, because we shall be looking at some of these things and the way to get out of them. So make sure you subscribe and make sure you hit the notification bell so that you can always be alerted when we put up a new episode. This has been Restoring the Inner Person with Jane. See you in the next one.